Hi guys, Chris here, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about my Believe-a-thon TBR. Believe-a-thon is a middle grade and children's book readathon that was created by Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin. I will link Gavin's channel, announcement video, and other information below. If you haven't seen Gavin's announcement video, you should really go check it out, even if you aren't planning on participating in the Believe-a-thon, as he just put so much work into it, and he managed to team up with some authors to get them to do little clips for the readathon, and seriously, you should just go check it out. It is the coolest readathon announcement I've ever seen. So, during Believe-a-thon, we will be trying to solve a mystery, and each book we read will get us a clue. To obtain the key, we must read a mystery. For this, I am planning on reading Poison is Not Polite by Robin Stevens. This is the second book in the Murder Most Unladylike mystery series. In this series, we follow two young girls named Daisy and Hazel as they solve mysteries. I read Murder Most Unladylike last month and found it to be an enjoyable read and was looking forward to seeing what adventures Daisy and Hazel got up to next. So when I saw that Robin Stevens was the author that announced this prompt, I knew that this was the perfect time to pick up the next book in the series and continue on. To earn the fingerprints, you have to read a book whose author is from a different culture than you. For this, I chose Aru Shah and the Song of Death by Roshani Chakshi. Again, Roshani is the author that introduced this prompt, so I thought it would be a good idea to pick up one of her books. This is the second book in this series. This book is about Hindu mythology, and I really enjoyed the first book as I read it last month, and I'm looking forward to continuing with this series and Aru's adventures. To obtain the Scream, you have to listen to an audiobook or read out loud. The author that introduced this prompt was Vashti Hardy, and unfortunately I did not have access to any of her audiobooks. So for this prompt, I'm going to be listening to Midnight by Aaron Hunter. This is the first book in the second arc of 6 in the Warrior series. If you don't know what Warriors is about, it's about forest cats living in clans. There are 4 different clans, and they all have to kind of learn how to coexist in their territory, but they don't always get along, so conflict arises and they have to deal with it. I really like these books, and I have been slowly working my way through rereading them, or in some cases reading some of them for the first time. There's just a ton of books in this series and in this world, so I am slowly working my way through them, and this gave me the perfect opportunity to pick up another one. To collect the torn page, you have to read a book with a supernatural element. This prompt was introduced by Michelle Harrison, so I am picking up Michelle's A Pinch of Magic. I know nothing about this book, other than that it must have a supernatural element since it will help me pick up this clue, but I'm really trying to read as many of the authors who introduced the prompts as possible, so I'm going to be giving this a shot. To collect the crown, I must read a book set in another world. This prompt was introduced by Somain Chainani, and for this, I'm going to read his book, The School for Good and Evil. This is another book I don't know too much about. I believe it's about 2 girls who obviously go to school for apparently good and evil, and I think they each think they're going to get into one of the schools and they end up in the other one. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this book is actually about. Next up, to collect the spilled ink, I need to read a book that features ghosts. For this, I'm going to be reading Amelia Feng and the Barbaric Bell by Laura Ellen Anderson. As she was the one to introduce this prompt, I'm guessing there's ghosts in this book. I Again, don't know much about it, but I'm looking forward to checking this one out. The cover art has me intrigued, as she appears to have fangs, and I know her last name was Fang, but other than that, I don't know anything about it, though it does look like kind of a perfect for Halloween-y kind of read, which means maybe I should have read it in October, but I'm looking forward to reading it in November. To collect the dagger, I must read a book with a dangerous setting. For this, I'm going to read Voyage of the Frostheart by Jamie Littler. Jamie was the one who introduced this prompt, so he's got 2 books, which are this one and its sequel, so I'm reading the first book to this series. I believe that Gavin really loves this series, so I'm quite looking forward to reading one of his faves. To obtain the backpack, you must read a new to you author. This prompt was introduced by Elle McNichol, and she is a brand new author whose first book, A Kind of Spark, came out recently. Unfortunately, I could not find anywhere to borrow this book from, so I wasn't able to read the author for this prompt. However, I am going to be reading Bright Storm by Vashti Hardy. Vashti was the one that introduced prompt number 3, and while I couldn't find any of her books on audiobook, I was able to find this one from my library, so I will be able to read one of her books for Believe-a-thon, even if it's not fulfilling the prompt she introduced, and she's definitely a new to me author. To obtain the footprints, you need to read a book with a prominent villain. For this, I am hoping to read Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. This is book 3 in the Nevermore series. It just came out in the US, so I have requested it from my library, and it is literally going to depend on whether my library gets it to me before the end of November or not. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to read the author who introduced this prompt, but I do have a backup. If I don't have access to Hollowpox this month, then I will be reading Night Books by J.A. White. When I realized that I wasn't going to be able to potentially read Hollowpox, I went on to the Believe-a-thon website, which is linked in the description below. And on that website, Gavin has a link to a spreadsheet with different recommendations for each prompt in case you're stuck. And as I was looking for other possible recommendations to fulfill this prompt, I saw Night Books. And I knew this was on my physical TBR shelf, so I figured why not grab it. The only thing I know about it is that it has apparently got a prominent villain and will fulfill the prompt, so we'll have to see, though I'm really hoping that I get to read Hollowpox instead because I'm so looking forward to the 3rd book in that series. To collect the hand mirror, you must read a book with a beautiful cover. This prompt was introduced by Sophie Anderson, and for this I will be reading her book, The House with Chicken Legs. This is a pretty cover, but the UK version, I believe, is even prettier, so I will insert a picture here so you can see it. I'm assuming this is about a house that has chicken legs. I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory, though I'm sure there's more to the story than just a house with chicken legs. I've heard a lot about Sophie Anderson, though I've never had the opportunity to pick up any of her books. And I'm really glad that this readathon has given me the perfect opportunity to finally check out one of Sophie Anderson's books. To obtain the chain, you must read a book with a colorful cast of characters. This prompt was introduced by Anna James, so I will be reading her book, The Book Wanderers. This is the first book in the Pages & Co. book series. Again, I have no idea what it's about, but if I had to hazard a guess based on the word book wanderers and this cover, it sounds like people who can travel through books. Also, how cool is the inside of the book? Like, that's really neat. I also love that there's a cat on the cover. I love cats, so I'm really looking forward to checking this book out. I'm hoping that this is going to be another start to a great middle grade series for me to read. To obtain the Flash of Lightning, you must read a book that incorporates folk tales. This prompt was introduced by Thomas Taylor, and so for this, I will be reading his book, Malamander. Prior to this readathon, I had never heard of Thomas Taylor or his books, so I'm really curious to see what kind of story he writes and how he incorporates folktales into his stories. And lastly, to obtain the shadow, I need to read a book that was published in 2020. This prompt was introduced by Rena Barron, and I will be reading her book, Maya and the Rising Dark. When I first saw this book, I was drawn in just by the gorgeous cover alone, so I'm looking forward to seeing what this book is all about. I'm really excited to be participating in this readathon and getting to read books from so many new to me authors. I love discovering new authors and getting to pick up new series that could potentially become my favorite, and I love middle grade books, so I'm really excited to be participating in this readathon, and I love the little mystery aspect of it. As we collect clues, we get to find out more about the mystery that's going on. So these are most of the books I will be reading for Believeathon. Are you guys participating in Believeathon? And if so, what are you guys planning to read? Are you guys planning on checking any of these out? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've made it this far in the video, leave me magnifying glasses since we're all going to be going on a mystery search. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!